about that one. Basically, that would allow you to have legitimacy as a state, but since we really haven't spoken about that, then that's okay. You can take it off.
And nationalism, it began like during the French Revolution, right?
Yeah, so it began in
France.
Yeah, France was actually the place where nationalism is considered to have begun. Exactly.
And nationalism is just like really like over pride in one's country.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of saying it. That's a really good way of saying it, actually.
Hubris, pride, perhaps?
Yeah, you could probably go there. Yeah, you could probably go there. What else have y'all got? Go ahead, Leon.
I have a question about de Gaulle. Was he an example of a nationalist?
De Gaulle was, going back into chapter 3, de Gaulle, going back on this, was actually the one who was the government in exile. And this is on page 41 at the very, very bottom. If you look down there, it says, government, however, can in certain circumstances exist independently of the nation. Underground governments or governments in exile struggle to expel occupiers or puppet governments. And in this instance, it said Charles de Gaulle declared a free French government in London to expel the Germans, and many powers recognized it as the government of France. So this is on the very bottom of page 41. So he was an example of a government operating outside of the boundaries of a country.
Oh, okay.
State and nation are two of the terms that came up an awful lot of times in chapter 3. So when you think back on these, this would be an example of the government actually operating outside of the state, if you will. And if you remember, the state was kind of the government body behind a particular territory. The state was the government. It was the ruling authority. Here is de Gaulle exercising the power of the state to a certain extent outside of the state itself, which seems kind of crazy.
Does that become like a nation then?
What's that?
Does that become like a nation?
Well, what was the nation again?
Because isn't nation the one that with like common like culture? Like
Nation was common heritage, common culture,
Then they
common
don't need, like, a
language,
territory, right?
common
Like,
history.
states are the ones that need like the territory. The land.
Well, with de Gaulle, they didn't even need territory because they were operating outside of it. So don't go there for exam purposes. That might just be a little bit more confusing. But if you remember from the chapter said which one came first. The state actually said that it was the state, the government, that came first. And the United States is a really good example of that because we had a government long before we really had a culture or we had a history. What else have y'all got for chapter 3?
But wouldn't you say that if the Germans continued to occupy France for a prolonged period of time, that the quote-unquote legitimate French government would have been basically null and void?
You could probably go there. You could probably go there. Of course, the longer the U.S. stays in Iraq, is it losing legitimacy over there, or is
the Iraqi government or the...
Yeah, either way. The Iraqi government, at this point, what they're trying to do isn't becoming any stronger the more we stay over there.
True, but there's also not a figurehead saying that, saying that they're actually occupying it for governmental purposes.
Yeah, you could go there. For our purposes today, I'm not going to test on that. So let's just keep it as simple as we can in reference to stuff for the exam. Let's do that.
Government.
Yeah. Okay, what questions have y'all got from chapter 3? Boy, it's a dead room today. What's going on?
What is the permanent tug of war regarding distribution?
What is the permanent tug of war regarding distribution? Anybody? Well, yeah, that's true. Of course, you've got to have at least looked somewhere as far as this is concerned. What is the permanent tug of war regarding distribution?
Isn't it like the clash of like a welfare state versus a laissez-faire?
What does that mean exactly?
Like redistribution, like give it to everyone or nobody, basically.
Yeah, you can go with that. Who gets what is basically the ultimate thing. It says here, crisis of distribution. This is on page 45. Under distribution, it says, the crisis of distribution is never fully settled. It concerns the classic question of who gets what. So basically, that tug of war is going to be dealing with who gets what. So to a little bit more general of an answer that you just gave, you've got the wealthy and you've got the poor. If you take from the rich in order to give to the poor, you're answering the question of who gets what. if you allow the wealthy to keep and you don't give to the poor, you're by the same token answering that question. But it never ever fully gets answered because they're always kind of fighting over that. They're always kind of fighting over that. And that was page 45.